I think people do things or don't do things often because they should do it or shouldn't do it. And they get caught up often in acting for an outside audience and missing out on a tremendous amount of opportunities that they would actually like to do. And it's really interesting when I see this. This is like one of the biggest reasons why I have been pushing so hard on the whole reciprocity project, is because I see this tremendously all the time, is that people for some reason I have this, I feel it, I truly do feel it all the time, that sort of feeling of what you should and shouldn't actually do. And I feel it very strongly, but I think it's less as important in my head than it is for a lot of people. That part is turned off for some reason, which allows me to do some more things that other people wouldn't do as much. And it's fascinating, right? Like the idea, and people come up with all sorts of really violent excuses. That's what I'm saying, like it's violent. Is because they get really angry and emotional about what they should and shouldn't actually do in their heads, and they never choose to do it. There's not like a rational calculation that one would look to assess information and choose an appropriate choice based on the available information. It's just, one or two reactions. It's a fight or flight reaction. I mean, there's many different reactions that you have, but it's very fight or flight describes it. You get that emotional feeling where you get angry, or other people want to run away and shut down, and they freeze up. And instead of addressing something bigger and pursuing something bigger, they never do it because they're afraid to actually do it. And to me, it's just absolutely fascinating how we do this, and the number of opportunities that people miss out in their life. I mean, I think about this as like, the simple act of doing something like a podcast or doing something like a YouTube channel. Because when you do it, some people, this is exactly what happens. People work up the courage to do it, something along those lines. And then they do it 3 times or 5 times or 10 times or even 100 times. They realize like nothing happens. And then they realize like people are laughing at me, or they have that sort of feelings of it. And then they quit and they never do it again. Right? This is like the quintessential thing that goes on with learning, is that you have to turn that part off and look at it and say, all of this stuff, it's going to take 10 years before anything happens. And you literally have to turn that part off in your brain, that what are people are going to say, or, this is not working out, or any of those number of different things, and just keep pursuing it, and realize that this is actually a good thing to pursue that thing. That is one example. There's any number of different other examples, right? Like doing something that can benefit you, that's a lot more subtler, like going out and meeting people, for example, and you have a fear of going out. This is more me. I definitely have this, like talking to people in the open is challenging. But once you do it, when you first do it, it's super awkward, but you keep doing it hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times. It gets better and easier, but it requires you to do it so long that it requires you to get over that sort of icky feeling that you actually have at the beginning, which, by the way, never goes away for many of us. Like some of us are born with traits that trim that part off. But many of us are not. And so you have to work at it repeatedly to get better at the idea of doing it. And there's all these little things in life that are very much like this, that, in order to do well, you have to push yourself through these things. It's like learning a course or, learning material, any number, you name it. Or, you're sitting at home and you don't want to get a job because you're afraid of what people are going to say. And instead of just getting up and pursuing it repeatedly or working at something that you feel is below you, you'd rather just sit at a job. It's like painful, right? Like, if you simply just say, let's say you're working you're sitting at home and you're complaining that you don't get to have a job, and you look at a job posting at McDonald's or some entry level labor position. You look at it and you say, well, that's below me. I'm never going to do that thing. And what you realize is that is the ticket often to do spectacular things. You work at McDonald's for 3 years. If you're decently talented, you can start beginning to work your way up to owning 10 different McDonald's franchise restaurants if you have that ambition, and being far wealthier than anybody I know. But you have to start at the bottom, and you have to have that belief that you can actually do this and keep going every single day. And if you don't have that, if that part of you is missing, that I'm going to do this thing, it's scary, but I'm going to do it anyways. It's yucky. I don't like this feeling, but I'm going to do it anyways. Or this is below me, but I'm going to just keep going. If you don't have that, then you're never going to get up and keep going and trying and pursuing and doing things that are extraordinarily good for you and for everybody else. And the only way that you can learn that is by repeating something that in your mind is just miserable. I don't know. I wish I can connect with people more with this. Is that it's never about doing something that's easy. It doesn't come natural to people. Nothing comes natural to people. And you're never going to know until you actually do it. And you might not have the genetic preposition to actually do it, or the genetic propensity to do it. But you're never going to know until you actually do it and you pursue and you try for a god-awful long time until you realize that this is not working out. But that takes an enormous amount of work to realize that. I wish people would get over this fear of what people would think about me, or, this fear of I'm not going to be good enough when I begin. Everybody has this, and it doesn't matter who you talk to. It's always the same story. There's always some excuse, or somebody is afraid of doing something. It's always the same excuse. But if you want to make a difference in your life, you gotta get up and get going, even when it's scary, even when you have an excuse. You get up and you get going every day, and you start pursuing it. Building a platform, as I'm doing, building the whole reciprocity platform, which started out as how can I change science in a positive way so that people will pitch in and feel good as they're doing it and have fun. in a scientific way, every step of this journey has been challenging. And at every step I've wanted to quit. But I get back up and I do it again.